Thank you everyone for coming. Okay. Okay, welcome everyone to the Morgan Horse episode with Avalon Photography. And we are joined today by Jolene Bertrand. She is the owner and primary photographer for Avalon Photography. She is a classically trained photographer and a graduate of the Minneapolis School of Communication Arts. And she also received a Bachelor of Science from North Central University. She grew up in Northern California and, like most young girls, loved horses and dreamt of having her own one day. She rode friends' horses and finally owned her own horse, Buck, before moving to Minnesota to finish college. After graduating, she spent 7 years working in a pediatric research at an inner city hospital to pay the bills and figure out what she really wanted to do. Photography was always more than a hobby to her. She had worked for 4 years at a camera shop in high school and in college, photographed weddings, engagement couples, families, parties, and high school senior portraits, but at the time it didn't seem feasible to make a living out of it. In 1999, she started riding horses again and was asked by barn friends to photograph their horses, And it was at this time that the light bulb went off and she realized she could combine both of her passions, photography and horses, and a dream job. In less than 1 year, she went full-time in photography. In just a few short years, she had replaced weddings with local, regional, and national horse shows throughout the US and Canada. While she has photographed just about every breed of horse and discipline, she most commonly photographs Arabians, Morgans, Saddlebreds, Friesians, and half Arabs. And today she limits herself to about 8 to 10 shows a year in order to be available for form shoots, high school seniors, and family portraits, where she enjoys working one-on-one with clients, creating beautiful images. Okay, so we'll go ahead and launch right into the questions. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for asking me. That was a big surprise.
Absolutely. And Allison, go ahead and start.
So our first question is, did you grow up interested in photography or did it kind of stem later on in life?
I distinctly remember my first interest in it was when I was about 10. And then when I was 12, I remember being at a neighbor's birthday party and the dad made us all say what we wanted to be when we grew up. And I was like, I want to be a photographer. And so I just remember that moment very clearly, because also the next Christmas, my brother got a camera and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm the one who wants to be the photographer. So the following year, my parents got me, my first like real camera. And of course, back then was in film. It was kind of a big deal. So then I, actually the way the lady tells it, the owner of the camera shop I worked at, apparently my mom talked her into giving me a job, but I had to wait till I was 16. So like it was around my 16th birthday. I was like, okay, can I come to work for you now? So it was definitely an interest. And of course I did it in college as well. I wasn't really sure at the time what I wanted to do, but I remember talking to a professor and he's like, what's your passion? What do you really love? I'm like, I just really love photography. So he's like, well, go do it. I'm like, really? It's that easy. So obviously I took a road, I didn't go right into it, but I am so glad I didn't, because I met so many people. I learned so much in that. So, even though it was my dream did not really, it was my dream job, but it didn't really come together until my late 20s.
That's awesome. And then did you grow up riding horses or around horses?
Just for fun. I was just that kind of average girl, just loved horses, loved animals, learned as much as I possibly could. And I did have a horse in college for a while. And unfortunately he passed away like right when I was finishing up in California and then moving. So I did ride out there though. When I did have them quite a bit, we'd go out and ride on the beach and up in the hills. So it was that was kind of my experience growing up. So no formal lessons or anything like that. I really knew nothing about even, I knew some about different breeds, but I didn't know about showing. And then certainly, in the realms and the things that I do now, as far as, with the competition part of it. what all you lovely ladies get to do.
How did you start your business in photography?
Kind of how it came together is a little bit was in the bio was I started riding horses again. People found out that that I had done photography. I did this horse expo, which was it's actually a really big deal. It's actually this weekend here in Minnesota. So I had a booth for photography. I showed, you know, what I had done. And then people started like I had people come up to me and start asking me about doing horse shows. And I was like, okay, I can do this. So, you know, I had to figure out for the different breeds, like, what are they looking for? They're looking for something specific. And so I'm always kind of amazed when people come to the booth and they'll be looking at the pictures, like, how do you get them all looking the same way? Like say in a hunt class. And I do try to branch out and do some different things, but there's the basic shot of, you know, where the horse is going down the rail, that there is a specific look where the horse looks the best. So that's like where you have to kind of nail it. But I look back now, you know, 20 some years later, and I'm like sort of embarrassed by some of the photos. I'm like, what was I thinking? I was totally shooting that horse wrong. But you know, I kind of learned quick, kind of on the fly. And then when digital came around, then that made it a lot easier to learn. And it was, you know, because I got instant feedback about how I was doing. But yeah, I also started getting asked to do weddings, which I don't do anymore. I haven't done for quite a while, but so how did I start? I just was like, oh, I don't have the equipment. I don't think I can do these weddings. And my husband's like, well, how much do you need? So I told him, he's like, well, how much are you going to make these weddings? He's like, okay, we're just going to go buy the equipment and it's going to be paid for. And so he was definitely like my biggest cheerleader, was, you know, helping me with, we got registered with the, you know, registered the business with the Secretary of State. And then I got to write this all down because I don't even have to worry about it much anymore, but we formed an LLC. We built he built the website. And so, you know, made the business out of it. And so within a year, I was full-time because I just couldn't do both things. I couldn't do my research job, and also I couldn't, you know, do the photography as well.
What is your favorite part about your job?
My favorite part, I would say, is working with people. You know, being able to create the images, and even though the editing aspect of it takes so much time, it's so gratifying because there's things that you can't do in the camera, but you can, you know, like fixing someone's, you know, blemishes, or taking out little hairs or things, or maybe, you know, the horse got scratched. You know, there's little things that you can do that really make a polished image, and to see the before and after, and also just making people feel good about themselves, because some people come in and they're like, oh, I either into the studio to see the photos or get their pictures done, or, you know, I'm out shooting and they may feel uncomfortable. And I like to show them right away, like, look at your image. Like, they see one aspect, which is usually bad lighting. But when you turn around and see it from my perspective, and then I show it in the camera, you can totally see, like, you know, it's a completely different look. It's the right lighting. And then of course that, you know, icing on the cake is being able to do the retouching and again, just make people feel good about themselves.
That's a really great thing to be able to do.
I enjoy it, as you know. I had the pleasure of being able to photograph Allison a couple of years ago.
Yes, and those are my favorite pictures ever. Do you have a favorite subject to photograph other than horses?
Other than horses, okay. Oh. Well, I like dogs. That's fun. I have been lately, my daughter plays fast pitch softball. And so I've been doing some of that, but she started playing basketball. So that's been really fun, just to kind of do something different. It's sort of, you know, you're doing the transition to still action shots. You're looking for certain things. But that's really fun to be able to shoot that. And that's just more, that's for me. I don't want to make a business out of it.
Is there something in particular that made you gain your interest in photography in the first place?
I think my first exposure to it was when I was about 10. We used to live at this Christian conference center, and after we moved away, we'd go back and visit our friends, and my dad would do some work there, and I would tag along with them because I had nothing else to do. And then there was a photographer there, and I remember following him on shoots, and it was up in the mountains, and it was just a beautiful facility, and he used to have models or people that, worked there, that they would tell the story of, things that were happening, events and things. And so he showed me, some things about photography and how the darkroom worked. And I just thought it was just the coolest thing. So, yeah, I remember borrowing my parents' little 110 camera, which I'm sure most of you don't know what is, but it's just like this little super old, maybe 70s kind of, it was old then, but anyway, it's funny to look back at some of those pictures because most of them were of horses, not knowing, what I would eventually do. So I think his name is George Turner. He lives in Oregon now, and I follow him on Facebook, and he does more art now. I don't think he does much photography, but here I was just like a little snot-nosed 9-10-year-old kid, and and it really, made an impact in what I'm doing today. So I appreciate that.
That is a really cool beginning to be able to see that you started taking pictures of horses and then to see where you are now. Do you have a favorite Morgan horse that you have gotten to take pictures of?
Well, boy, I was thinking about that, and I don't want to get in trouble. Because there's a lot. I just can't. I don't think a favorite one. I can remember this really amazing, like 3-year-old English horse at a show, or some of the farm shoots that I've done where we, took the horse in the water, or, we just did different things. So, or being able to take show horses out like in a field and just have them canter. It's so fun. I like doing that kind of stuff. So I can't say that. I just can't say one because I'll get in trouble.
What does a typical photo session look like with Avalon photography?
Ooh, okay. So are you talking about like going on the farm?
Sure.
That
Yeah.
type
Or
of
just,
thing?
anything. Yeah.
Well, there's a couple of kinds of shoots I do. I'll do some like where I just go out to the farm, and not just, but go to the farm and maybe do 30-minute sessions. Every 30 minutes, just doing different, horse and rider, whatnot. Or there's other times like with high school seniors, I really prefer to kind of focus on that one if I can. So, taking maybe an hour and a half where it's just that person. So usually we've talked ahead of time about clothes. I'm going to kind of assume maybe that we're talking about maybe a high school senior or, someone with their horse. We've usually talked about clothing, what looks good. You have to watch things like things aren't too short or too low, because we just can't do as many different poses and things. But I really want people to relax and just be themselves. And I really try to be the one to kind of set things up and roll with it, because you can have you can walk in thinking that you're going to do one thing, and then pretty soon, like, you just can't. So you just have to be flexible. Sometimes, there's different types of shots with, say, bridle or halter. I try to end sessions if they want to do pictures like with them grazing, we end that way their mouth doesn't get all green, that type of thing. I know I'm probably just like spaghetti going all over the place, but it's kind of how I roll. But yeah, if something's not working, then sometimes the horse has stood too long and the person stood too long, and just we'll walk, we'll move. If I can, I like to incorporate some movement into the pictures. I really love to show that connection, and anytime I can get the horse and the person as close as possible, I love it. And sometimes it's all we can do is the person standing next to the horse, where there's other times I literally like can get the subject or the person like on the ground, and the horse is like grazing around them. And some people would be like, oh my gosh, don't do that. But, you know, I really tune into usually a trainer's there or someone who, because I want that feedback, like, ooh, we can't do that with a horse, or that's not, you know, so I try to, and if a trainer's not there, then it's, you know, the person, you know, I always like to ask, like, will this work? Because you want to be safe too. So, but I usually will go over clothes first. We'll talk about, like kind of a plan of which ones we'll do when, and then get that kind of feedback of what's gonna work. Things like, you know, if some people want to do bareback, and, you know, it's like, well, have they done bareback before? If you want to do bareback, please practice, because it doesn't always work. So some horses, they just don't know. It just feels weird to them. One of my weirdest situations was, I think, when this horse was not behaving, and it was so bad. I mean, it's like, we were all just ready to send it back to the stall. And the girl goes, well, let me get on the horse. And I was like, okay, that's weird. But that's what I'm thinking. I would never say that. I'm sorry. I don't even remember who it is either. Okay. So anyway, she got on the horse, and the horse was immediately calm. And it was like, the horse didn't know what to do with the girl standing next to it, but it was like, oh, okay, you're on me. Okay, this feels right. Okay, yep, whatever you want, I will totally do. That's what the horse was saying. So, so yeah, all those experiences just kind of help me kind of feel out what's going on. But it's all to get that, to show that relationship between the horse and the person. And I mean, gosh, you guys love your horses so much, and it's so fun to be a part of that, to see that, and just to make those like really fun, pretty images. So do you have any more questions about that in particular? Because as far as a session with me.
How would someone book a session with you?
Oh, how would they book? They can call me or send me a message. I like to make a personal contact. I mean, I like to talk to people so that I can really ask a lot of questions rather than just filling out a form. I do have on my website, you can fill out a form that gets emailed to me, and that's just for basic information. But otherwise, I really like to learn as much as I can ahead of time. And also it's just, you know, for scheduling and that, everyone's so busy, there's different shows. So it's just usually easier to talk on the phone about it. So that's usually what we do. So, yeah, as far as like a session, like, I will guarantee you we have fun, right? We always have a great time. So, and that's really what my goal is too, is it's not just about taking the pictures, it's about like having a good time with it too. So.
How did you go about naming your business Avalon?
Okay, so how much time do we have? I don't know, long. Okay, so when we first incorporated and we're like, okay, we're going for this, and meaning me and my husband, because he totally helped me set this all up. We had a name picked out, and I remember being at work and he called me and he was like, someone else has that name. Sorry about the light. It's my other computer. There we go. Someone else has a name. We got to pick one quick. And so I looked down and I saw this CD and it said Avalon, and I'd been listening to it for a long time. And it was by John Tesh, and Avalon is a city on Catalina Island in California. I'm from California. I'm like, that's cool. So I'm like, well, what does it mean? And so I looked it up, and it's part of the legend of King Arthur. It's where the kings went when they died, and it was an earthly paradise. And I just, you know, when I read that, it just hit home to me, because like the thing that I loved about photos was to be able to take photos that were like better than life. They're more beautiful. They're more like just better than even reality. So at the time it was, you know, you would send your film in, you'd wait a week, whatever, 2 weeks, you get them back, you look and you'd be so excited, like, oh my gosh, look, oh my God. Well, now we do that. We just like look at the back of our cameras. But that excitement, like, wow, this is, and that the whole like, Professional Photographers of America and like that portrait kind of look where, you know, it's just better than life. It's that beautiful paradise. That's a long answer because we probably have a little time, but. And for business purposes, my husband, who has a business background, was like, we don't want to use our name. So at the time, that was part of it. And it's an A name, which made a big difference way back when, because we had the phone books, and when you put ads in, you'd want to be a high up in the alphabet. So that was another reason.
That makes a lot of sense. Do you have a favorite horse show that you go to and take photographs of?
Again, I don't want to get in trouble. You know, there's a few that are really fun. I mean, they're all fun, but I mean, I just got back from, I see my assistant PJ, she's on too. Hi, PJ. She and I just went to Scottsdale to photograph the Arabian Breeders' World Cup. And why this is so fun is that you have just like these top-notch halter horses. I mean, it doesn't get any better in the US. And I get to photograph them outside. It's sunny, the grass is green, it's just beautiful. So that's a fun one. The ones out in Washington, it's like it's just like a family. Love doing the ones that we do, like Key, that's coming up pretty soon, and Seafair. Being able to shoot with Howie at US Nationals for the Arabians, I've been doing that for many years, and that is like camp. It's so fun shooting with him. And I have to say, then the last one would be the Frisian Nationals, because those Frisian horses are just amazing. So yeah, so those are, I don't want to be biased, but those are some of the, you know, the really fun ones.
How do you learn to take the photo at the right moment, or how do you go about doing that?
One is just learning from other photographers. You know, like, do you mean specifically like horse shows?
Horse shows, or, you know, if you're like at a farm shoot and there's like a particularly shiny moment, just kind of knowing what will look good and how you take it at the right moment.
Okay. Well, I guess so. The one, you know, if you're talking about action, is, you know, studying the magazines and their coverage, and find out like what is sort of, you know, where should the legs be, you know, what makes the horse look the best. So I think, you know, definitely learning from other photographers. But when you're doing farm shoots, if you're shooting action, it's the same thing. So like I usually look for, I mean, well, it kind of depends. But okay, let me go back to the farm shoots. I think it's really reading the horses and the people, like, if they are moving. So like, even if it's like, if they're at liberty, you really have to shoot it right before it happens. That's one thing. And like, you can, you know, I can usually see like, okay, the horse is about to put its ears up. I think ears up is like very important. There's times though, when the subjects are really, the horse and the person are really close, then I don't worry about the ears as much, because I don't think it's 100% natural anyways when you're that close. But I think, you know, just looking again, just studying what, you know, from the best, like Howie, Schatzberg, you know, where those, you know, those rail shots going down, what are you looking for there? So, you know, it's usually for a trot, it's the inside front leg is down. But it's, you know, it can be a little different for like gaited horses, for instance. At the Frisian Nationals, I find like some of the carriage driving, they don't really care for that. They would rather the forelegs be kind of more spread out, like in dressage. So sometimes you're shooting both ways too, just so people have enough to choose from. And if it's kind of a going away shot, then you kind of want that front leg up instead of down. So I think for that, I don't know if that really answers your question. But I think you gotta, you know, I'd have to kind of show you examples if you want to get into the, you know, into the details about it. But it's, again, farm shoots and people, it's, you know, finding the right angles, you know, studying art and just paying attention to the subjects, you know, what works.
What kind of camera do you use?
I use a Nikon. So I don't have anything against Canon. It's just, it's kind of what people are comfortable with. That's what I started with. And so I love it. I put it right here. It looks small in the video, but I use the Nikon Z9. It's the mirrorless camera, is awesome, especially for shooting outside. So I love it. It's been great.
Do you ride outside of your photography business?
Good question. Okay, so I have to say I haven't ridden in a while, a couple of years, I think. But before that, I would usually ride a few times a year. So it's just, I've got an 11-year-old and she rides. So it's kind of the phase of in life, you know, I let her do that for now, but it's certainly, especially after a long show, I'm like, I just want to go ride, you know? So, but I would love to. It's just time.
What advice would you give someone wanting to get into photography?
Into photography. Well, I would say, you know, to, you know, really explore all avenues of it. There's a lot of different things that you can photograph. Try to find out, you know, figure out if you want to enjoy it as a hobby because it'll always be there, or if you want to make it a business. If you want to make it a business, then you have to remember that, you know, only a certain amount of time are you spending creating those images versus running a business, especially if it's a smaller business. I mean, if you have a big business, you have lots of help, then, you know, then that's different. You're probably shooting more than you're actually running the business, as far as the day-to-day stuff. But, you know, if you want to make a business, go for it, do it. It is enjoyable, but it will absolutely rob your joy if you don't watch the business side of it, to make sure that, you know, it'll just suck you dry. I mean, as far as all the time and the effort and things that you put into it. So, it's an incredible career and a job, but it can also be really time consuming. And I know when I first started out, I was like, oh my gosh, the paperwork, like I'm like in the organization, and it's a little different now, but yet not, because even though it's not as, it's more paperless, but you have the files, the backups, there's a lot to it. So, but there's a whole technical side. Some people are just only that art side, and the business side is really painful. So you find people that can help you with that. But I mean, it's definitely something that, you know, you can do your whole life, you know, whether it is for your career, for your, you know, to make a living, or just for the enjoyment, you know. I mean, I'm thankful for the photos that I have, even on my iPhone, because you know, life is going by so fast. So it's nice to have those, you know, those memories. And that's really what we're doing, is we're preserving those memories. So.
So we had just one more question for you, and that's just asking if you had anything else you want to share.
Anything else? Well, I was thinking about this a little bit. I didn't make any notes, but I would say, you know, kind of along the same lines of, you know, just follow your dreams. If it's a dream for you to do that, just, you know, put 100% into it. And that means, you know, taking it seriously and making contact with other professionals, because I think, you know, I don't know any professional photographer that would not want to, you know, share what they've learned and to be able to help other people out. But I would say, you know, just to take it seriously. And, you know, I remember, you know, years ago, just the whole idea of like when we had film, we would have to like buy all the film, and we'd have to, you know, and people wouldn't, you know, go in and register with the Secretary of State to get like their sales, you know, collect the sales tax and then be able to write stuff off. And so it's like, ooh, I mean, I just would think, oh my gosh, you're not legit. Like you have to be a legit business person and do those kinds of things. So I would just say, yeah, just take it seriously. And also, you know, I guess the one thing I would say as far as our industry right now with the horse shows is that if you want your horse show photographers there at the shows, just if you can buy one photo at least at every show, it would make a huge difference. So I know that might sound weird, but I know surprisingly a very small number of people actually purchase photos from the official photographers, and we're not paid to be there. So that's the only way we can keep coming back. And so if you want to see them, you know, and that's not just my show, I mean, that's everybody, you know. So I know when I'm involved in things like, you know, my daughter's basketball pictures, man, I'm buying those pictures because even though I can take better, maybe, I still buy them because I want those people there. So anyway, those are just some random thoughts, but you know, if you're thinking about maybe a portrait session, I've always said, you know, you never, ever regret doing it. You're only going to regret not doing it. So you will always look back and have those amazing pictures with your horses. And when people say, oh, you know, next year I want to do it, we know what happens in life, right? Like sometimes things unexpected come up, like COVID, or, you know, your horse a horse gets ill or something. So I would say, you know, if you are looking at doing portraits, like do it, you know. So those are some random thoughts. So this has been fun. You guys are
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely. Thank you so much. Did anybody else have any questions before we go?
Oh,
Okay.
come on. Someone has a question. PJ, do you have any questions?
No, I got nothing. I'll just tell them what a blast it is to work with you.
Oh, you're so sweet. I could not do it without PJ. She,
Oh, sure you could.
oh no.
But hey, you know, Jolene's giving you guys some great advice. I grew up riding horses also, like a lot of you all did. And when I was in high school, our football coach who boarded his horses at our house for his girls said, you know, when you're trying to decide what you want to be when you grow up, whatever it is that you have a passion for, well, there's an industry that supports that passion, whether it's underwater basket weaving or baseball gloves or whatever it is, there's an entire industry. And I thought at that time as a high school junior, wow, wouldn't it be cool one day to have a job in the horse industry? And I ended up going to work for a horse magazine. And that's what I did the first 23 years of my professional life. And then I sort of retired and bumped into this young lady here, literally bumped into her with a camera. And we became fast friends. And that was what Jolene, I think, well, if the baby girl is 11, it was 12 years ago because it was the year before the daughter was born. And so for 12 years, I've had the pleasure of accompanying her to horse shows. So whatever it is that you have a passion for, just know that you can follow that dream, and there's an industry out there waiting for you. It's just
Yes.
waiting for you.
Oh, you got to
Go for
work
it.
hard. And that's the thing that
Oh.
we have found. You got to, you know, I've probably turned away more people than not, because once they get in the ring and realize all the hard work that, you know, you don't want to do it. So, and that's whether it's photography or anything else, you have to just, you got to work hard and you'll be rewarded for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wish you kids all the best. I'm sorry I missed the first few minutes. I just saw it on Facebook and I was like, oh no, I missed the first part. But anyway, maybe we'll see
You're
you girls
absolutely fine.
ringside one day.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys both so much.
All right. Good night.
Yep, good night. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank
We'll see
you.
you soon, Allison.